is Minda Wilson with Urgent Care. I'm pleased to welcome Elliott McKenzie and has learned to express his feelings and his emotions in music and is a great resource to all of us. His songs are amazing. Anyway, I'm proud and pleased to welcome Elliott McKenzie to the show. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
You are a singer, you're a musician, you're a former soldier, and all of that seems to have bled into each other to create this amazing music that you produce.
Yeah, so I served in the military for a total of 8 years between the Marine Corps and the Army. And after I got out of the Marine Corps, I faced a lot of trauma from PTSD from when I served in Iraq. I was in Iraq for 7 months with the Marine Corps infantry, and I saw a lot of frontline combat, and I saw a lot of death and things like that. And so I got PTSD, depression, anxiety, hyper-awareness, and, the like when I got out of the military. And I dealt with that for a large period of my life. And I ended up turning to music as a form of therapy for all that stuff. And it ended up changing my life and saving my life. So I've been able to use my talent in music as a way of getting through all of my emotional things and being able to use music as a form of expression and a form of therapy. And now I'm at a place where I'm able to inspire other people through my platform in music.
So when you first came out of the military, it must have been difficult for you, and you came home, right? And
yeah,
you tried to cope in various ways, right? And sort of what was that like for you when you first came home?
When I first came home, it was kind of like not knowing where to go, because I was the kind of person that at the time, I really didn't know what I wanted to do with my life other than, I knew I wanted to join the Marine Corps because becoming a Marine was a childhood dream of mine. But after I got out of the Marine Corps, I was kind of like, okay, I know that I love to do music. So I actually went to a musician's institute in California, in Los Angeles, and went to school for music and learned how to mix and master music and how to write songs and things like that. So I knew that music was going to be a part of my future, but I wasn't sure exactly what my future was. So my getting out of the military was a little bit of a discovery period for me. I had to kind of rediscover who I was, rediscover what I wanted to do with my life, rediscover what I like to do for fun and all that kind of stuff. Because when you're in the military, you're kind of limited. You're not really allowed to be yourself as much as you normally would be as a civilian. So you kind of have to go through this transition period where you're figuring yourself out. You're figuring out what you want to do with the rest of your life. You're figuring out who you are as an individual person, because in the military, they train you to work as a member of a team and to not really think about yourself, but to think about the Marines to your left and to your right. So I had to relearn and reprogram myself, like how to think about just me and what I wanted for my life.
So where does the anger come from then when you get home? How does that influence your life?
Well, the therapist that I worked with told me that the anger was manifested PTSD. A lot of PTSD comes in different forms. And so the interesting thing about PTSD is it's not the same with everybody. One person might have certain symptoms and a different person will have a completely separate set of symptoms. And so my PTSD manifested as anger, as depression, as anxiety, and hyper-awareness. And so I was told that my anger came from just being angry all the time in the military, because especially with the Marine Corps is a very high energy, very, I don't want to say angry branch, but, we're known for being very aggressive. And so there's a high level of aggression when you're a Marine, especially when you're a Marine Corps infantryman like I was. Mm-hmm. So I came from an environment where there was a lot of aggression and a lot of intensity with the training and with just the culture within the Marine Corps. And so I think a lot of the anger issues that I faced when I got out came from that.
And did you know to seek help right away, or did you reach a point where, what made you go seek the help? Did you know to look for it? I mean, sort of what was the turning point for you?
So no, I did not know to go look for help. I didn't even know I had PTSD until something very dramatic happened with my brother at home. So there was an incident where I was at home and I got into a verbal altercation with my brother on my way to work one day when I was getting dressed to leave the house. And that that verbal altercation turned physical. And my mom, it was me, my mom, and my brother living in the household at the time. And my mom walks out of her bedroom and sees, her two sons, two very large sons, fighting in the bedroom or in the living room. And she doesn't know what to do. She can't figure it out. So she calls the cops. And I leave the house, and I had thrown a knife. I grabbed a kitchen knife from my kitchen, and I threw it at my brother just in anger. And I walked out of the house, and I was like, F this, I'm going to work. So I walked out, and I was walking to work, and then a sheriff's car pulls up, and they're like, "Are you Elliott McKenzie? Put your hands behind your back." So I got detained, and luckily the sergeant who responded to the call, he was a former soldier, and he was an Army veteran. So in discussing the whole situation with him and telling him a little bit about myself, he basically said, "It looks to me like you are a veteran with PTSD and you probably don't realize it yet," because he was like, "You just got out of the military." Because this was right after I had gotten out of the Marine Corps. Like, I think it was less than a year after I gotten out of the Marine Corps. And so in talking to him, he realized, like, okay, this is a guy who just got out of the military. He served in Iraq. He probably has PTSD and hasn't gotten help for it yet. So he was like, "I'm going to give you two options. I'm going to treat you like a civilian, and I'm going to have you charged with assault with a deadly weapon for throwing the knife at your brother, or I can treat you like a veteran, and I will personally drive you in my car to the VA in Long Beach and see if they can get you help for PTSD." So I took option B, and that was when I started getting the help that I needed.
In today's world, it's a good story because it says how policemen can really reach out and help people, and that
Right.
person changed your life.
Yeah, exactly.
And so when you got to the VA, they really did help you. They gave you the therapy you needed, and they started you on a road to recovery.
Right,
Is that when you started playing music, or did that start when you got home?
The music has always been a part of my life. I started playing drums in 5th grade, and I started singing in high school, but I never did it professionally. It was more of like a hobby, kind of like a talent that I had growing up as a child. But I didn't start taking it seriously and making money off of it or using it in a professional way until way later in 2000. I want to say 15 was when I started really taking it serious. So the incident that I just mentioned happened in 2007/2008, like the end of 2007 and 8. So I was in therapy for a number of years. And then I started going to school in 2010, but the issues remained, like the PTSD, the anger issues, the depression, primarily the depression and the anxiety started to get worse from 2010 to about 2013. And during those years, I was also in college. I was trying to go to school using the post 9/11 GI Bill. But the issues were so bad that I was like failing a lot of my classes. And so I dropped out of school in 2013 and then went back to therapy at a vet center. And that's when the music really started to get kicked in, because the therapist that I spoke to at that vet center, again, in her evaluation of me and who I was in my life, I mentioned to her that I had been doing music all my life since I was a kid. And she taught me about how I could use my talent in music as therapy. So that's when I started to use music as therapy, and then I started doing it professionally after that.
So it was an outlet for you, an expressive outlet for you, in addition to something you love doing. So your music is very tied to your experiences. Is it always that way?
Yeah, I want to be able to write songs that people can relate to and that people can understand. And then I also wanted to be able to write songs that other people could use as therapy for themselves. Because when I first started doing music professionally in 2015, I wanted to be able to do something where people could relate to your music. I wanted to be able to have my listeners or my future fans listen to my music and go, "Oh my God, I've been through that. I understand what he's talking about. This song helped me get through a hard time." So I've always tried to write music that's very relatable. And then I started doing the military topics. Like I did a song called Gunshot in 2017. And that song is specifically about sound sensitivity that a lot of combat veterans have. Like, for instance, if you are a combat veteran who's been in firefights before and, you've heard explosions, sometimes things like fireworks or a car backfiring or a balloon popping can kind of trigger you. And so I wrote that song specifically about that experience because it was not only therapeutic to me to kind of tell that story and get that off my chest, but I knew that there were other veterans out there who have been through something like that, and maybe they could use it for therapy. And then I also wrote it because I wanted it to be educational for civilians who might have no clue what veterans go through, so that civilians can understand a little bit more about what veterans go through after getting home from combat.
Wow. And so it's sharing your experience with them, and then giving them a vision, that a hopeful vision in a way, because your song's hopeful too.
Right, exactly. Yeah. My songs, I try to make them very positive in the end. I have a song that's coming out on my album called Failure that specifically talks about that topic, that talks about, yes, you can fail in life, you can fail at something in life, but just because you failed at that thing or that section of your life does not mean that your life is over. It just means that you have to pick up and go back up to the top and succeed again. And it's possible to do that. And you can succeed even if you failed in life.
Yeah. And that's an important message for people to learn. That's not just, a PTSD message. That's an everybody message.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I wrote that song specifically for everybody, not just for the veteran community. My music is a mix of both. Some of my songs are specifically about military experiences, but the majority of my music now is more for the general public, about just inspirational topics like that one.
So people get an opportunity to learn. It's a great sharing. It's a great way for you to share and for other people to share with you. So do you have is there a favorite song that you've written?
I'm having a brain fart. Yeah, there is a favorite song. I actually have it tattooed on my my arm. I have the first line from the song tattooed on my arm. So my favorite song that I've done is a song called Fight Back. It was the second single that I released after Gunshots. And the reason I created Fight Back was because, again, I wanted to write a song that the general public could relate to and not just military veterans, because the Gunshot song was specific to the military community. But after that, I was like, I want to write a song that more people can relate to outside of the military community. So Fight Back is a song that I wrote that specifically talks about fighting back against whatever it is that you deal with, whether it's a mental illness like PTSD, depression, anxiety, whatever, if it's even something like Down syndrome, whatever it is that plagues you every single day, the thing that you wake up with, the thing that you go to sleep with, the thing that bothers you all day, if it's a physical injury, if it's a missing limb or something, it's just a song that's meant to motivate people to fight back against that thing and win that battle against that thing and overcome that battle, so that you can make it through every single day and you can still succeed in life.
But
it's a song that talks about me fighting back against my issues.
And that you can fight back, that it's something people can do and be successful at. Like PTSD doesn't go, these things don't go away. So, people still have their triggers. They still you still must experience on occasion some reactions to things. Is that true, or is that not true anymore?
No, that's very true. It's just a matter of minimizing them so that you can manage your triggers. Like for me, it was a matter of learning what my triggers are and then managing those triggers so I wouldn't be triggers as much. Like, for instance, I know one of my triggers is loud noises. Like when I wrote Gunshots, I wrote it about a very specific experience that I had where this kid came into a grocery store with his family with, I think they had birthday balloons, and one of the balloons popped. And the popping of that balloon gave me flashbacks to being in Ramadi and firefights. And so I know that sound sensitivity is one of my triggers, but now I'm aware of it. So now I've learned to minimize it. So like when I first got out of the military, I couldn't go to fireworks shows on 4th of July. I would sit in my apartment and I would cringe at the sound of all the fireworks going off outside because it would make me think I was in a firefight. But I've learned to manage that symptom, and I've learned to manage that trigger to the point now where I can enjoy 4th of July again. I can go to a fireworks show. I've been able to go to fireworks shows for the past 5 or 6 years now with no problem at all. So for me, it was just a matter of recognizing what my triggers are and then being aware of my environment. Like if I know that there's a possibility of a trigger happening where I am, then I just have to be aware, okay, something might happen here. I've got to be aware of it so I don't freak out or I don't have an episode where I wasn't expecting that trigger to happen. And then just managing them, you know, just being prepared for them, recognizing them. Like everybody's going to have a list of triggers. Like I have 6 or 7 different triggers, or I have 4 triggers, I have 3 triggers, 10 triggers. Just recognize what your triggers are and then find ways to cope with them so that they don't trigger you as bad as they used to.
How is the isolation of COVID-19 affecting you? Are you able to get your messages and your songs out to people?
There's a good and a bad, because a lot of veterans isolate, and that's the typical thing that a lot of veterans with issues do, including myself. I live by myself. I have my own apartment, just me and my dog here. So the isolation has made my depression worse and my anxiety a little bit worse, but I found ways to cope with that. For instance, jogging is a big therapeutic thing for me. I love to go running. I've run marathons and half marathons throughout my life, and running is a big coping mechanism for me. So now what I do is if I feel like I've been cooped up in an apartment too long, I go for a jog just to get some sun rays, to burn some calories, to, you know, get my adrenaline going, and that helps balance things out. But as far as getting my music out, no, it hasn't really been like it hasn't slowed it down, because everything is digital nowadays. You know, I have my own recording studio here in my apartment. I make all my music here. So it's just a matter of me writing a song, recording it, mixing it, mastering it, and then putting it out digitally for the fan base to get a hold of. And so as far as getting my music out, no, believe it or not, it's actually had the opposite effect, because I've been cooped up in my apartment, which means I've had more downtime to record music. So now I'm actually getting my album done, and I'm about 2 or 3 songs away from getting my album complete for this year. And I'm way ahead of schedule, because I was planning on releasing it later this year in like November. But if I keep on the path that I'm on now, I can have it out by the end of the summer.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
But there's COVID-19, and now we have all the violence around George Floyd. Has his death impacted you or the people you know? I mean,
it's impacted me a little bit, because I'm African American, so I'm half black and half white. I was lucky enough to grow up in a mixed race family. I was adopted at 8 months old by a white mother who also adopted 3 other kids, and she's an amazing woman. She's an angel, and she gave us all lives that we probably wouldn't have had. And I grew up in an area that was a very, very mixed race city at the time that I was living there. And the high school that I went to high school from 1999 to 2003. And during those years, the high school that I was going through was, according to statistics back in the day, was the most ethnically diverse high school in the country. And I could attest to that, because I remember I had friends of all different races. There was Hispanic kids, Asian kids, Indian kids, whites, blacks, Asians. Like, it was all over the spectrum as far as ethnicities and races go in my high school. And so I grew up not seeing color. And I grew up in an area where everybody else really didn't see color, because there were just so many different types of people that lived in the area and that went to school there. So racism didn't really happen to me directly. I did experience it a little bit in high school. There was a time when I went on a high school field trip to a different state, and we had some racist things happen to us in a restaurant that we went to in this other state, because it was a table full of black kids in the band that sat at this one table, and we never got cared for, because I'm assuming there was some racist waiters and stuff in this area. But other than stuff like that, I never really experienced racism like on a heavy level in my life. So I've never had to deal with a lot of the stuff that people like George Floyd have had to deal with. And I know it exists. I know that racism definitely exists, and it sucks. And I will admit that this whole incident and the stuff that's been happening with a lot of the black gentlemen being killed by officers, it gives me more anxiety. Now, when I get pulled over, or if I get pulled over by a cop, my anxiety level is a little bit higher because I'm like, oh crap, I'm a black guy getting pulled over. Here we go again. There's a possibility this could go south. So my personal anxiety when I deal with law enforcement now is a little bit higher, even though I'm a Marine, and you would think that a Marine wouldn't be, but they have guns, we don't. It comes down to that, and so it has affected my comfort level with law enforcement a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But luckily, I've never had a personal encounter with law enforcement that's gone south. Every time I've been pulled over or had to speak with law enforcement or police officers, it's always been perfectly fine, So
right,
I don't
and you
really
had a police officer intervene when you were young and change your life.
Exactly, right, yeah. So, I mean, I guess my anxiety's gone up just a little bit just because of what's been going on, but I'm not too worried about it because I know if the pavement hits the road and I do have to speak with another officer in the future, if I get pulled over, I should be fine.
And officers like the ones that are in trouble are the exception. They're not really the rule.
Exactly. So, yeah, they're not the majority.
Right. That's true too. So, so I understand that it makes you more uncomfortable because you never know if the officers, is what side the officer stands on. But in general, your experience with police has been very positive, I would say.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. In fact, the last time I got pulled over, the cop tried to recruit me. The last time I got a ticket, I got pulled over by California Highway Patrol, and he saw that I was a veteran, and he saw that I was in shape and everything, and he was like, so have you ever thought about joining the Highway Patrol? And I was like, are you serious? I was like, you just gave me a ticket, and now you're trying to make me your coworker? What?
Right. So are you gonna, if I go in and talk to somebody, are you going to waive the ticket?
I know, right? Yeah, it was pretty interesting. That was a first. I've never had an officer try to recruit me at the same time he was giving me a ticket.
So if people want to reach out to you, listen to your music, what's the best way for them to be able to contact you and to learn more about your get a song or download a song or listen to your music or learn more about you personally?
Yeah, so I have a website. It's just my name it's my name.com. So it's elliottmckenzie.com, www.elliotmckenzie. In Elliot McKenzie, it's 2 L's and 2 T's in Elliot. A lot of people put 1 T in Elliot because that's the standard way to spell it. But my mom thought I was extra special for some reason. So she put 2 L's and 2 T's in my name. So it's ELLIOTTMCKENZIE.com, elliottmckenzie.com. If you can't find that for some reason, just Google Elliot McKenzie and you'll see a whole bunch of stuff pop up. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I do have Twitter, but I barely use it. So the best way to get in contact with me is Facebook, Instagram, or my website. On my website, there's actually a tab that says contact, and you can send me an email if you want me to reach out to you, or if you want to just send me a message to say hi, or if you want to book me to perform or anything like that. And then also all of my music is available on all different digital platforms. So if you have like iTunes or Google Play or Amazon Music or Spotify, just search for Elliot McKenzie in that platform and all my music will pop up. I think right now I have 6 singles that are out. And then the album will be out later this year, hopefully around the end of summer.
So if people want to sample your music, they can go to the typical places to download music. And if they want to learn more about you or performance opportunities, the best place to go is your website.
Correct. Yes.
Well, Elliot, it's just been an amazing pleasure and privilege to speak to you. You are influencing people in a really positive way, which is really critical in these times, and it's been a real privilege. This is Minda Wilson with Urgent Care.
If you could tell your depression, your anxiety, your PTSD, whatever it is that you fight every single day. If you could tell it one thing, what would you say? This is what I said. I'm done living like this. You're dead to me. You've been winning, but now I'm gonna fight back. It's that time that I'm gonna take my life back. You can come or you can go, but I guarantee that I'm never gonna turn around and look back. You've been winning, but now I'm gonna fight back. It's that time that I'm gonna take my life back. And I swear, no matter what you do, yeah, yeah, my mind is over you. My mind is over you.